to get your OBGYN care. And that's what's happening in some of the southern states. I know I've read that where there's a severe lack of certain kind of specialists in Alabama, Mississippi, those type of states down there because of the same reason. No limits on malpractice suits. There's just certain specialties that they can't operate down there. So this public option, if it's going to be a public insurance company, they're going to have to. They're going to if your insurance as a regular consumer of insurance is to include some kind of special care, then the payouts to the doctors who are giving that special care, if those doctors still face high malpractice premiums, but the payouts are small compared to the risk of lawsuit, then those doctors are just going to refuse to do that kind of procedure, right? Or they won't.
That's correct.
They can't serve. Let's say we'll just call it Medicare, expanded Medicare, for lack of a better term. So if Medicare was expanded to include certain, the larger amount of the population, there are doctors now who don't accept Medicare because they can't make money, and the risk is too high. The malpractice premiums are too high, and they just can't make a profit. Now, here's the interesting question before we switch over to subjects. The left has always claimed that profit is what destroys healthcare. It's what makes it unavailable to people without enough money. Is that it's a profit-driven industry. But even if you took profit out, even if they said you must operate as a non-profit doctor, just say they did that just for a stupid reason, you still have this risk of going under and owing more than, not only not making a profit, but going bankrupt if they don't reform tort to some extent, and include it as part of this public option. So it almost has to happen, isn't it? Because it's one of those just black hole, bottomless pits of money in the system. I don't know what you think about that. Is it the major driver of costs, or is it?
Yes, it's the major driver of costs.
Yeah, because the other major driver is that you've got doctors and patients. Once the deductible is paid, in a large pool insurance system, then they seem to just keep using services and doing as many services as they can to save the life of the patient, because someone else is now paying. Now the insurance company is paying, and the knock against the system is that the deductibles are essentially too low, and it's very, very open-ended for the people who need extreme care.
The deductibles are too high, you mean?
Or the deductibles, well, either way, if you had a high deductible and then you exceed it, there's this basic problem where there's 20% of the people consume 80% or more of the money, of the cost of the whole system, because of their need for extreme care.
Yeah, that's because they're just about dead. The people that are really old, they say that you go through more than half of your medical expenses in life in your last year of life. Right. And so that's a problem that's going to be hard to get around no matter what. So right,
that one is that's a problem now, and it's a huge consumer cost now. And one of the major, maybe the major reason that Republicans have been able to push back on the single payer system is that they're saying, well, you're going to have to. It's going to be the government deciding whether to limit care to grandma instead of the doctor and the patient limiting. I mean, what ends up happening, I think, in most cases, is that you try extreme measures. And if none of them seem to work, eventually Grandma and the family do just give up and say, we're just going to have to put her in hospice, and because we've tried everything that we know of, and it just keeps getting worse. And so you decide to stop giving the extreme care. What the conservatives or libertarians are basically arguing. So we want to continue that system. We want to try to, do whatever we can with whatever technologies we have, and then finally be allowed to make the decision as a family and with the doctor's advice, and keep the government out of the decision making. But I don't know how that. We'll have to. You look at it and just use your analytical mind. Look. If everybody did that, depending on what kinds of technologies are out there, some technologies consume tremendous amounts of money. And if they're not promising at all, then I guess it's the doctor's responsibility to say that. To say, if it's got very little chance of helping and almost negligible, then he should say that.
And that's going to become an issue with single-payer health care.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of moral dilemmas in here, but I do like the idea of tort reform being put in as part of a federal package. I think it could do nothing but help this whole situation. It's at least one black hole of money that can be amended more reasonably than the other one.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the Republicans on tort reform.
Okay, great. Well, let's leave it right there, Greg, and watch for the next, thrilling chapter to come out. It's pretty interesting every week with all the way that the emotions are raised on this issue, and it's been in the news every single day the last 3-4 weeks, and it's and it's going to get more interesting as they get back into session.